Have you ever lived with the belief that your life was solid, predictable, and unshakable? That marriage was a fortress, built on vows too sacred to ever crack? I once stood in that certainty. I thought my wife and I were indestructible, our bond carved in stone, immune to storms. But life has a brutal way of exposing illusions, tearing down what feels permanent, and leaving you face to face with truths you never asked to see. For me, it all started with something that seemed small. She asked for a pause. Just a little distance, she said. Space to breathe, to clear her head. Her words were calm, her tone soft, her eyes steady, as if rehearsed. I remember confusion swelling in me, yet I buried it under love. I wanted to be strong for her. I told her I understood, that she could have the time she needed. I convinced myself it was a phase, nothing more than the strain of life pressing down on us. Every couple goes through rough patches, right? I never imagined it was the opening scene of a nightmare I couldn't stop. The first days without her felt unreal. The bed was wide and empty, silence pressing against me like a weight. I reached out, texts, calls, little reminders of love, but her replies came back clipped, detached, colder than I'd ever known her to be. I told myself to be patient. She just needed time. But as days bled into weeks, the silence stretched into a chasm. No visits, no calls, no explanations, just a void where our life together had been. I replayed our last conversations over and over, searching for clues. What did I miss? Did I fail her somehow? Was I blind to some flaw in myself? Friends told me to focus on work, to distract myself. I tried, but nothing filled the emptiness she left behind. A month passed. By then, I knew deep down this wasn't just space. It was distance with no intent to retain. Still, hope clung stubbornly to me. I whispered to myself that she would come back, that what we'd built couldn't just disappear. Another month slipped by, then another. I stopped counting days. My phone lay untouched, no calls lighting up the screen, no texts arriving with warmth or explanation. Life moved forward in a hollow imitation of what it once was. The laughter we shared, the quiet talks, the little rituals that made up a marriage, they were gone, replaced with absence, with silence, with questions that never found answers. Then came the knock. 3 months later, her silhouette filled the doorway. My heart surged with hope. Maybe she was ready to fight for us, to come home. She looked exhausted, carrying an invisible weight. For one breath, I believed, but then her words crashed down. She was pregnant, and it wasn't mine. During our time apart, she had been with someone else. A fleeting encounter, she said. A mistake, but it had consequences that could never be erased. I felt the ground slip beneath me. My chest caved, air thick and unbreathable. Betrayal, rage, sorrow, disbelief, all hit me at once. I wanted to scream, to collapse, to vanish. She tried to explain, her voice breaking. She spoke of loneliness, of feeling lost, of making choices she never intended. She pleaded for forgiveness, for one more chance. But the words fell like stones. No excuse could undo the reality she'd brought to my doorstep. The home we built was no longer home. The dreams we held were ash in my hands. The woman I trusted most had become a stranger, and I was left with a choice. A part of me wanted to forgive, to cling to the remnants of our marriage, to salvage something from the wreckage. But the wound was too deep, the betrayal too final. I knew I had to protect myself, my dignity, my future. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I filed for divorce, but I couldn't stop there. I pursued legal action, determined not to let her walk away unscathed. She had broken vows, torn apart a life we built together. The legal process was brutal, endless hearings, paperwork, and confrontations that ripped the scab off my heart again and again. Each court date was a fresh reminder of betrayal, but I stayed the course. I refused to let her betrayal define me. Slowly, painfully, I began rebuilding. I forced myself to heal, to remember who I was before marriage defined me. It wasn't easy. Nights were suffocating with loneliness. Days dragged under the weight of doubt. Could I ever trust again? Could I ever feel whole? But step by step, I carved a path forward. This ordeal taught me truths I never wanted. Sometimes love is not enough. Sometimes space is not healing. It's the doorway to destruction. And sometimes the person you believe you know best becomes unrecognizable. Yet through all of it, I discovered resilience. I learned the power of walking away, the strength of choosing dignity, the courage of starting over. If you're living in betrayal's shadow, know this: your pain is real, your heartbreak valid, but you still hold power. You can shape your story, protect your heart, and build again. Thank you for walking with me through mine. If you've been through the fire too, I'd love to hear your journey. And if you need hope in the ashes, stay with me. There are more stories of strength ahead.